Are you neurodivergent? And is your social anxiety holding you back from living the life you deserve? Hi, I'm Essie. I'm an autistic and ADHD therapist. Today, I'm talking to you about the causes of social anxiety and what we can do about it. Social anxiety is an all too common co-occurring challenge for many neurodivergent people. And I believe it's in part a result of our neurotype as much as it is living in an ableist society that rejects you when you make social mistakes. Many autistics and ADHDers have impaired social cognition, meaning we struggle to read other people's intentions, feelings, motives, to communicate in a way that takes into account other people's feelings and how they might receive what we say, and to be able to respond in the moment to other people's reactions and be sensitive to their needs. It's not that we're insensitive or oblivious, it's that we just have a different way of communicating that often doesn't align with that of neurotypicals. Some neurodivergents, for example, like to just convey information rather than discuss feelings and don't use subtext or any underlying meaning when they're conveying a message. Whereas many neurotypicals like to discuss both feelings and thoughts and to engage in what is often termed social grooming. Social grooming is a set of behaviors that is fundamental to how people interact in social societies, at least according to neurotypicals. And this might involve, for example, taking into account somebody's feelings, knowing their rank in a hierarchy because hierarchies are everywhere, being respectful of somebody and their status, acknowledging other people's feelings, responding in a nuanced way to other people's social overtures, fluffing people's ego when it's necessary, engaging in banter and small talk. These are just some examples of what social grooming might involve. Many neurodivergents don't engage in social grooming, so they miss out on a fundamental step in social interactions. Not being able to anticipate how one's words or actions might be construed, or behaving in an impulsive or hyperactive way can often land us in social difficulties. Not all neurotypicals are willing to extend us the benefit of the doubt and to treat us with grace. And this is the essence of the double empathy problem, a term which refers to the difficulty neurodivergents have understanding neurotypicals, which is also mirrored in their difficulty in understanding neurodivergence. And this is a result of different cognitive and communication styles. Unfortunately, when these communication breakdowns or misunderstandings happen, there is a tendency among neurotypicals to attack, blame, shame, criticize neurodivergence, or to shun and ostracize neurodivergence for not meeting the neurotypical standard of social interaction. Many neurodivergents, as a result, develop anxiety. And as a result of this, they're more likely to avoid these kinds of situations just to keep the peace and just to avoid the possibility of being criticized or punished. As is so often the case, a well-intentioned comment or action on the behalf of the neurodivergent might be misconstrued by the neurotypical, and then the neurodivergent has to do a lot of the legwork to try to explain, apologize, amend other people's feelings because they've been hurt, and this is very taxing for the neurodivergent. They're left feeling hopeless because even when they do their very best, they somehow end up making a mistake and angering other people. It's very much a case of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You can make an effort, you'll fail. You don't make an effort, you fail. So why even bother? One of the biggest challenges here is that when neurodivergents are shunned, they lose opportunity to practice neurotypical social skills and become versed in the neurotypical style of communication. Conversely, neurotypicals don't get an opportunity to acclimatize themselves to neurodivergent style of communication. So it goes both ways, but the problem is neurodivergents are the minority. So the view of the neurotypical often overrides their view. They're expected to adapt their communication and behavioral styles to fit that of the majority. So it falls on neurodivergents to mask their neurodivergence, to camouflage differences, and to compensate for their neurodivergent traits. It is possible to adapt in a way that doesn't involve masking, camouflaging, and compensating, and that's through gradual adjustments of one's behavior by becoming more well-versed in the neurotypical styles of communication. Until we have that experience, we fall back on masking, camouflaging, and compensation. But the effort involved in doing this is huge. which makes us even more reluctant to want to engage in social interactions because we know by the end of it, we'll feel massively drained and maybe even demoralized when it doesn't even work. If we choose to avoid these situations going forward, we don't really miss out on the opportunity to practice neurotypical social skills. We find that actually our anxiety increases over time because the effort involved going back into these social situations and learning to interact with neurotypicals in a way that's feasible for them becomes overblown in our minds. We start to overestimate the challenge involved and underestimate our capacity to adapt. Experiencing failure repeatedly can be demoralizing, but it can also teach us to take it into our stride. If we don't learn to pick ourselves up after making mistakes and push onward, we feel even more crippled by the possibility of a mistake occurring, and it tends to be a lot more devastating, especially if you have rejection-sensitive dysphoria, the extreme fear and pain one experiences when confronted with either perceived or real rejection, failure, mistakes, criticisms from others. If you have rejection-sensitive dysphoria, you will be a lot less resilient in the face of social mistakes, and they'll feel a lot more momentous than they actually are. Somebody who avoids social interactions is more likely to get in their head when they're in the middle of a social interaction, as many of us neurodivergents do. We start questioning our own words and behaviors, struggling to read other people and feeling anxious that we've said or done something inappropriate, perceiving a reaction from someone in a negative light, doing a lot of mind reading and assuming we understand what other people are thinking about us, getting it wrong, fearing the worst possible outcome. And the mental labor involved in doing this is in itself quite a deterrent. How easier it is just to avoid the situation altogether. One doesn't have to confront the possibility of failure, and one doesn't have to get in one's head. One doesn't have to mask, camouflage, and compensate, and then end up feeling defeated when none of it works. So how does one overcome social anxiety? I believe it's very much a case of faking it till you make it. Putting yourselves out there in the social arena can feel overwhelming and frightening at times, but it's the only way to build that social skill in terms of relating to neurotypicals, understanding how they like to communicate, adjusting in a reasonable way without masking, camouflaging, and compensating. I see it akin to learning a second language, becoming well-versed in two different styles of communication, and being multi-talented. I don't feel like we should be obliged to learn the neurotypical style of communication, but I think it's very advantageous given they're the majority in the society and that social expectations tend to skew in favor of neurotypical styles. Yes, it's frustrating and demoralizing to put yourself out there and face rejection and failure, and to feel like nothing is even working despite your best efforts. But gradually, with enough practice, that's going to decrease. Embrace the challenge by putting yourself in situations that might be a little bit uncomfortable, but give you the opportunity to practice neurotypical social skills. I understand firsthand the challenges of having social anxiety. At one point, I would have met the criteria for avoidant personality disorder. I was so fearful of social rejection that if somebody was walking down the street toward me and I had the opportunity to cross to the other side of the street, I would do it. I got so uncomfortable meeting the other person's eyes, trying to figure out how I should respond to that person, if I should say hello, fearing that if I said hello and they didn't respond, it would be a form of rejection, feeling really awkward in my own skin, not being sure what the appropriate social response is. And then when I did respond to a polite overture from this person, I would then feel super awkward and uncomfortable and guilt myself and shame myself for not being normal enough. So for me, the only alternative was to just avoid people because I didn't want to go through all that mental legwork to try to figure out what the right response was, how to engage in a normal way, and to appease other people's expectations. One day at a work function, a senior staff member gave me a positive shout out in front of a crowd of people. And I remember feeling deep embarrassment of everybody's attention on me. I remember looking away. My body language got very awkward. I was trying to signal to her to stop because it felt too much. And afterwards, she came over and apologized because I think she recognized that it made me uncomfortable. Even though it was positive attention, the fact I was getting all that attention was in itself very uncomfortable. It got to one point where I realized I couldn't keep going like this, that I had to overcome my social anxiety because it was constricting the horizons of my life. A lot of opportunities I wouldn't be able to pursue unless I was able to develop some social confidence. So what I did was I enrolled in a community college class to learn public speaking. Not something I really wanted to do, but it was very confidence building because it made me put myself out there. By the end of the semester, everybody in the class perceived me as very confident and well-spoken, to the point I was invited to help co-host a group public speaking event. To be honest, I wasn't feeling the most confident about this, but I think my tendency to lean into the fake it till you make it idea was really paying off because people were buying it. I then also enrolled in a improv class. Now, let me tell you, that was the most painful thing, bar none, that I've done in my life. I remember dreading going to the class because it was so unpredictable. I'm not very good thinking on my feet sometimes. I'm not a naturally comedic person, but I was being expected to improvise on the spot in front of my classmates, and that was very overwhelming. Every day that I had to attend this class, I felt dread. The discomfort was so intense, it felt like I was being flayed alive. By the end of it, I didn't become an improv master, but I noticed that this awkwardness in my own skin, this discomfort, was gradually fading away to the point that it felt tolerable. Did I feel like the most confident person in the world? No, but I could make myself go out on the stage and improvise scenes in front of a group of people that I didn't know. Now, I don't expect everybody to do the same things I did, but I think it's worthwhile to put yourself in situations like this that help you get out of your head and get more into the present moment. The challenge with social anxiety is that you often get caught up in your own thoughts to the point that you can't even function, which then results in this self-defeating spiral of not being able to socially perform because you're too caught up in your thoughts, then not being very successful in your social interactions, taking it as proof that you're somehow deficient, and then withdrawing and not getting a lot of practice, and the cycle repeats. If you can push through your discomfort, I promise you with time, it will start to evaporate. As social creatures, building this confidence is so fundamental to our success in all our relationships and enterprises. As difficult as it might feel, putting yourself out there is an opportunity for growth and to find allies who understand and empathize with you. The flip side is, if you embrace your anxiety and don't put yourself out there, nothing will change, and the success you deserve will become even more difficult to obtain. I want to stress that you don't need to throw yourself in the deep end. Take little steps regularly toward building that confidence, whether it's doing your homework in a cafe, saying hello to a cashier, whatever it might be. These are little opportunities to build your confidence. And the important thing is, whatever happens, don't overthink it. Don't perseverate on it. Don't get caught up in the rumination that often follows, thinking that you failed, that you're awkward, because these thoughts don't serve you. The important thing is to keep trying, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and push on. If you found this video helpful, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and share it with anyone you think might benefit from my content. This goes a long way to helping people like yourself find and benefit from my videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.